Hello everyone. Welcome to the African Tech Gurus. Remember, this is your channel where learning is by doing. And we always say that in as much as you learn with the ALX and the African Tech Gurus, ensure that you understand every other concept so that you will know whatever you are doing and it will not be just trying to do what you see on the video, but you will be understanding what are you supposed to do. So we have tried to cover hello world, we have tried to cover variables, if else, and even while. So today we'll be talking about the variables, nested loops, and what you can try to understand out of ALX is that from the few weeks you have been learning, you can understand that every other concept that you learned in the previous day will build on what you learned in the day, for example, today. So what we are learning today is a build up of what we have learned in the previous lessons. So that is the biggest secrets about ALX, that what you learned yesterday is what you need today for you to learn today's concept. So before we do what's supposed to cover today, allow me to welcome our new subscribers, our new people who are coming here for the first time. If you are new to this particular channel and you have not subscribed, we will request you that you subscribe to our channel and we will appreciate that. Then for the returning subscribers, welcome back again. This is another episode, this is another content we will be learning together again. So allow me now to take you through what we are supposed to cover today. What we are supposed to cover today is nested loops, C function, learning into program, and then what is purpose of function, and then C header files. So in this case, what I will be doing more is on practical part so that you'll be able to understand when I talk about nested loops, how will I be able to do it in a practical way to be able to understand what each and every part entails. So allow me to write a code, small code here so that you're able to understand. Let me list file first of all. Yes, so let me create a file. I will create a C file, C program, which I will call it in this case loops.c. So inside this one, I want to write a loop program, and then we will execute and see how it will work. Yes, so let me click on I to go into insert function. I am now inside that VI. I want to write a code. So as you all know that our code has to begin with include stdio.h header file like that. So and then from there, what comes next is the comments. What comes next is the comment. And in this case, I will use main, which I will use main, which in this case my main will represent the entry point of my coding. So that will be the function. And then what will be the return value? My function will have to return to me 0 only on success, meaning that if my code will run successfully, then that is what 0 means. So now let's dig into it and write int main void. So we say that our function will return nothing, so that's int main void. And then from there, now let's open the bracket like this. And then what are we writing? First of all, remember we have done about variables, and in this case we are trying to describe about variables. So in this case, let's initialize a variable integer, meaning that this variable should be of type int. So integer, and then I'm calling integer I, which is equals to 0 in this case, like that. And then I have another variable in this case which I call it j, and in this case I'm just declaring it. I'm not initializing with anything, so I will initialize it later in this particular program. Then what comes next is now the while. I want to use while, so I say while, and I will use only I, while I is less than 5, like this. While I is less than 5, like that, what happened? I will just print a new line. I don't need to print anything. Just print for me a new line. I will print a new line, meaning that it will print a new line 5 times. So that's our code. It will print a new line 5 times, and then from there we now increment. There is need to increment. If we don't increment, our loop will go into an ending. It will be infinite loop, no ending. It will just continue because I will always be 0. I will always be 0. But when we increment it, it's like saying we are print one new line. So increment, add 1. Is I 1 less than 5? Yes. So print another new line. I have printed 2 new lines. Is 2 less than 5? Yes. Increment, print that equate 3 to be 3, and then print new line. So I believe at that point you are able to understand. So if we come here, let's now return. Let's return. In this case, we are returning 0, like that. And then we close our code like that. So what this code will do, it will print 5 new lines. Let's escape, and then from there we gcc loops.c, and then we enter. List files. Now we are able to see that we have a.out. So let's see what is inside a.out. A.out, you see there's a space here, meaning it has printed 5 lines, blank lines, 5 new blank lines. So that is the function of while loop. That is while loop. Now we want to nest another while loop now inside this loop. Now we have understood that this loop does nothing apart from just printing 5 new lines. Understood? Now let's get back to our code and do the loops. VI loops, yes. Now let's get to our code. We want now to nest another loop. When we are nesting another loop, I want to nest another loop here. Where will I place it? I will have to place it here. Sorry. I will say here. And first of all, before I create another loop, I will have to initialize now j. Remember, I just declared it, I never initialized it. So j, in this case, will be equals to 0, like that. And then what next? I want to write another while loop. So since that the first while loop is just printing 5 lines, nothing in it. So in this case now, we want to print numbers. So it prints numbers between 0 and 0, 1, 2. So we say that, we'll say in this case, j has to be less than 3. So in as long as j is less than 3, what will happen? While j is less than 3, in as long as j is less than 3, what will happen? Let's check. What will happen is that we will have this one like this, and then let me close so that I not forget, like that. And then I do this. So what will happen when j is less than 3? What will happen? We want to print that j. We want to print that value. We want to print that value. So printf like this, and then inside it we say the value is, we have to %d because it's an integer, and there's new line like that. And then I'm sorry, before I close, let me close this quotation, and then I use comma, and then I say that number. So it will have to print for us that particular number. What next? If we leave like that, it will be an infinite loop. We have now to increment I. So you'll say increment for us I, like that. Not I, I'm sorry, it's not I. We are incrementing j. It is j. And then like that. So we expect that our code will work. Let me space here. There's a space required here at the top. Let me come here after a while here before the bracket. Yes. So now that we are at this point, I believe now our code will be able to execute. Let me escape like that. And then let me run GCC and see. GCC now. Yes, we still have a.out. So let's see the output. Let's see the output of a.out. You see, it has run for us 0, 1, 2. Okay, I use a new line 0, 1, 2, new line 0, 1, 2, new line. So you have understand that it is able to execute the inline, the inside one 4 many times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Let me go back to our code and show you something. Before, let me remove the new line on our code. On our code here, I click I to go to insert mode first, and then in our code, I want to go to here to remove the new line. Then I will see it to look like that. Escape now, like this, enter. Then GCC, we run the GCC. GCC is always the same like that. And then let's wait and see what will be the results. And then list file, we have that a.out. Now let's now see the output of that a.out. I'm sorry, a.out, like that, enter. So you will notice now it is saying 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. So it's how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first part was print only 5 lines. The second inside loop is now print a number in as long as it is less than 3. Now I believe up to that point you have understood what nested loops are. Now let's see now the function. Let's see function. Let me clear here. So function, what are function? Function in this case, allow me to click on this particular document and try to explain something. So a function is a group of statements that that together perform a task. So a function is a group of statements that perform a function. So it is a block of code that performs certain maybe task. So every C program has at least one function. When we talk about at least one function, if we check about what we created some few minutes ago about the loops, you will understand that there is int main function. That is the first function that you will encounter in your C programming. So C main function is the function that is in C. So that's why it says that at least it has one function, which is main function. So now there are different ways. There are different. So you can now that we have that main function, which in this case I will call built-in function, and then there is another function called user-defined function. I believe that user-defined function is the function that you yourself as a programmer you will come up with those kind of functions. So in this case now I will have to show you how able to do a function. How are you able to create function? You will create functions when you will be declaring first of all. You first of all define function there. So yes. So now that is declaration. There's definition. So when you are defining a function, you are trying to tell us that this function will be of this point. It will have this particular kind of data. It will require this type of parameters. This will be the function name. So when we talk about defining a function, you will see something like int return type, and then function name, and then parameters list. So in this case, and then also we have the body of the function. I will explain each of these. So we talk about the return type function. Is that, remember when we were declaring variables, we were declaring variable when we were saying that variable, you must say what type of data type that variable has. For example, integer a, meaning that it's an integer, it's a variable a which is of type integer. So char a, it's a variable a which is of data type char. So I believe you understand that. The same case to function, you have to say the return type. Will it return integer? Will it return character? Will it return string? You have to explain that one in the return type. And then now we come to the function name. You must give us what is your function name. And I will recommend you that you give a function name which is related to what you are trying or what the function will be able to do. If I give a function and say integer area, meaning that that function, I'm expecting that function to calculate an area of maybe a particular shape, like for example, a rectangle, a square, or any type of other shape which I will be required to calculate depending on the parameters. Parameters now is how many it will require. Will it require how many values? Require two values. For example, an area will be of a rectangle will be length times width. So which means that we will only require two values here. We'll be saying that int 1, which is length, int 2, which is width. Yes, so that's parameters is what you will use to calculate that area. What you will use, you will require length and width to calculate the area of that particular rectangle. Then you come now to the body of the function. Body of the function is like the calculation of that particular area of that particular rectangle. So it's now the body of the function now is now the calculation. So you see that the return type, a function may return a value. A return type is a data type of the value the function returns. So some function perform the desired operation without returning the value. In this case, the return type is the keyword void. Whenever that this particular function does not return anything, it is the keyword that you use here is void. But when it has to return a particular type of value, for example, integer, you have to specify that it is integer and then area and then into length and width, meaning that it will return type int. The function name is area and the parameters are length and width. Then the function name, the actual name of the function name and parameters linked together constitute the function signature. So talk about parameters now. A parameter is like a placeholder. When a function is invoked, you pass a value, the parameter. This value is reversed to the actual parameter or argument. So the parameter list refers to the type, order, and the number of parameter the function should include. So in this case, you must tell us that this function will contain two parameters and the length and width. What is the data type of this particular parameters? Are they integers? Are they characters? So you have to tell us that particular concept. You have to explain that. And then another thing is that there is called function body. Function body is the real execution of what the function will be doing. You have to tell us what will the function do. You have to tell us that this is what we'll be doing. You will be calculating the area, and then you will be able to show us the step to calculate a particular area. Now let's talk about calling the function. Now that you have talked about function declaration or function definition, let's come now to calling the function. Calling the function is like you are invoking a function. You may say int, for example, this one, int max int, meaning that it will return integer value. The name of the function is called max, and then it is require only two arguments, int 1 and the second int. So it will return only it require only two arguments, that is int and int. All of them are of type int. Now the calling of the function is that where you are now in your main function. Remember, where your code begins is on the main function. Your code will begin on the main function. So when your function reaches the main function, that is when the execution begins. So you will call for a function, meaning that you will invoke the function that you have created to perform what you are described that it will do. Now, before we do a function, allow me to take you back to here and go to a purpose of prototype, function prototype. So function of prototype is that a prototype is like your own function. Now that you have created your own function, what will be the benefit of that function that you have created? We call it a function prototype. So function is that it tells the return type of the data that the function will return. For example, I told you that what you have to do is that you say int area, length, and width, meaning int is the return type. You have to tell us that. So what the function of prototype is that it will tell us the return type of that particular function that you have created. You have created a function. What is the return type of that particular function? So with the prototype or with that particular function you have created, we will be able to identify what is the return type. Because if I say my function is int area, the return type in this case is a integer. If I say void area, my return type in this case will be void. So it will be able to tell us the return type. Number two, it tells us the number of arguments passed to the function. The number of arguments passed to the function. That is, when I talk about that, is that the tell us number of arguments passed to the function. For example, we will see that if we talk about area, we will talk about the length and the width. So there are only two arguments which are passed to this particular function. There are only two arguments. Number three, it tells us the data types of which they are past of the past argument. Which data type? For example, if we say that int length, so data type or the arguments that are inside that particular function are of which type? We will be able to know that in a function. Okay. So, and then also tell us the order in which the argument are passed in. Which order? Do we have length first of all, or do we have the width first? Yes. So let me come here. Let me come here inside this. Let me create a file. Let me create a file called vi called function.c. Then let's create now a file so you'll be able to understand what I am explaining to you. So in this case, allow me to write a code like this. So first of all, you have to include, that is include stdio.h like that. That is it. And then next, this is the comment. We must give comment to our code. Remember that we say that comment are not part of the code, but they help us to enhance the readability of our code. So in this case, I will define my code. In this case, my code, I will use a function called max. Max. Okay. Okay, let me just call area. So you call area. So that is my function, area of a rectangle. So that function will calculate the area of a rectangle like that, area of a rectangle. So, and then what are we using? We are using L. So we are using L in this case like that, which is representing length. We represent our length, and then I will use width, W, to represent our width. Okay, and then what's the return value? So our return value will be 0 on success. That is 0 on success. Then we close that comment. Then now let's write our code. Our function is, remember we say that it must have what? The return type. So our function will return integer value. And then the function of the function name. Our function name is area. And then now the arguments. What are the arguments? In this case, what are the arguments? We give it. And then in the arguments, what data type do arguments use? So we have integer. Remember this, the last one says that it tell us the data types. So now data types int L, comma, then int W. So we shall have first of all the length and then the width. So we have solved this one, right? Return data type int. And number of argument passed is 2, length and width. Then data type to which the argument are passed, we have all of them are integer. And then the order is you shall have only first of all length and then width later. So now we are at that point. What next? We'll come here and what will this particular function do? The body of the function. So the body of the function in this case will do something called area. What does it do? It will tell us that area. So first of all, let's define area. You see int area. So let's say like that. And then we say now area is equals to L multiplied by W, length times width. That is the area, length times width, like that. I believe that is how it does. And then from there now, return results. So okay, no worry, this is okay. I think this point is okay. I don't need that one. Okay, now that I've defined this function will receive length and it will receive the width, and then from there it calculate the area. All right. Okay. So now let's come to the second part, which I will require us now to go to the main function. So our main function, first of all, we'll have to give some comments to say that we are now getting into the main part of the program. So in this main part of the program, we will say main to mean that this is the entry point, like that. And then we shall have a return type. Return type is 0. Return 0 on success, like that. And then let me close like that. So let me now go to int main and then void. So now we have declared our own function. Now we want to call it. So use like this. In this case now, I want just to call the function, nothing much. I will say the result the result of our answer, or our answer in this case, the result will be equal to, I'm calling now the function, invoking the function, will be equal to area into bracket. I want to pass the length. What is the length? The area of a rectangle of whose length is 12 and width is 5, like that. So I am passing, you see now the order, I'm passing first of all the length and then the width. So I want the result that I'll be having here is the area of 12 and 5. Then from here now I come and say print f like that. And then what am I printing? Percentage d, because it's an integer, and then a new line like that, and then comma, and then the result. What is the result? Like that. And then what we do is return 0 0. Yes, like that. So that is return 0. Then I close this one. So what I'm saying is that I will pass this one. This one require length and width. So I will saying that take here, instead of saying 12 here at the top here, use 12. Instead of saying width, use 5. And then calculate the area and print for me. So let's now, I believe our code will now work. Let's escape. And then what we do is we git, I'm sorry, not git, this gcc function dot c, like that. It says what's the area of the problem? It says result undeclared. Oh, I never declare I never say what are the data type of result. Let me go back. Yes, like that. I go to insert mode, and then I want to change it here. Okay, I say int result, like that. So it's an integer. So I have to specify escape now, copy to lock now, gcc waiting. Yes, it has created ls. So what is the output of a.out? It says 60. Is it true? 12 times 5 is 60. It has given us the answer. So that is our function. Our function is that it executes. Let me go back to our code, and then you see. So what it does is that it executes. You're able to see that now it has now executed. This is the function which require us to pass some parameters. and we have in the main function now we have passed a parameter to be 12, and this other one, this one, and then we have passed it to that one. Okay, I believe to this point now you're able to understand how functions works. I believe you're able to understand how functions work. Now let me explain something also on this, still on this return. Assuming now we want to use a nested, we want to use else statement. We want to use a loop inside a function again. Remember, we think we are building on what we are learning. We are learning something, then we build on it. So then I want now to use if else. I want to write another function, which this other function, in this case, it will print. Okay, let me copy. Allow me to copy this code we have written here. Allow me to copy like that. And then let me escape this one. I want to create another function. We want to create another function called vi, let's say maximum value, max value. I want to use it to create a max value, max.c. I want to identify a maximum value in a pair of numbers. So yeah, I will just paste so that I will edit. I will paste the code here so that I will edit. Yes. So in this point, I will not be saying that I will not say that it's the area, but in this case, I'll call it maximum. So here I'll say maximum. I will call it max. So maximum, I'll call it max. And then what does max do? Max do in this case, it will what max do is that, okay, enter. Okay, so in the max, I will say maximum value, maximum number. So it will return for us a maximum number. So what I will be using, I will be using num1, that's the first number. Then also I will be using num2, which in this case the num1 is, I will say the num1 will be the first number. Then num2 the second number, like that. Then okay, that is all. Then now we change the name instead of area, sorry, instead of area, I will say that this function is called, it's an int, yes, but it is called maximum, that is max. And then I will use integer 1, which is num1. And then also I will say num2, like that. So what are we doing? So in the body is not the same. The body is not the same in this case. Let me wrap up this one. So we want to identify the maximum number. So I will say int maximum, or let's say int result. So what the result that you'll be having here. So what I will say is that if my num1, that is if num1 is greater than num2, what do you do? If it's greater than num2, then our result, so our result will be equals to num1. So that is our result. Our result will store num1. Else, so what does else means? Meaning that if it is not the case, else return for us result is equals to num2. So if num1 is not greater than num2, then return for us result is equals to num2. So if num1 is not biggest, so probably num2 will be the biggest one. So if num1 is not the maximum number, then num2 probably will be the maximum number. That's why it will be stored under the result. Then I am done with that. So then I say return result. Return result like that. Okay, then I go back to my code, my main function. The main function, I'll say in this case, I'll not say, let me say int maximum num, like that. I'm sorry, maximum num. Then I will say, how will I know the maximum num? I will just say maximum num is equals to max, and then I give two numbers. Max, the first number is 12 and the second number is 5. I will not change that one. Then from there now, print for us. You are printing for us the maximum number. What is the maximum number between 12 and 5? So maximum num. So print for us the maximum num, and then you return 0. So I believe this point I've achieved. Let me escape like this, and then I GCC, use the GCC, hope it will work. Let's wait. Okay, list file, we have a.out. Okay, let me check what is inside. That is /a.out. What is inside that particular? It says 12. It says 60y. Let me go back. I believe, okay, let me redirect. Let me use GCC, and then that is, oh, we're not running that one. We are running GCC. We are running the, which one? max.c. We are running max.c. Let's wait. Yes, list file now. So we have a.out. So what is inside a.out? Like that, enter. It says 12. So the maximum number between 12 and 5 is 12. So I believe at this point now you are able to understand what it means. Okay, let me take you back again to use variables inside the int main function. We are building up on what you have learned. Allow me to take you all this so I'll be able to understand. Ensure that you go through this video, understand it. Yes, I'm at this point. I click on I to go to insert mode. So here at the bottom here, instead of saying I want to declare first of all another variables here and say int num 1. Okay, let me call it int a in this case, which is int a. Then I say another one int b, like that. Int a, int b, like that. Then what I will say is that in my int a, I will say a is equals to 10, like that, and then my b will be equals to 9. So what's the maximum number between 10 and 9? Probably 10 is the answer. So here, instead of saying 12 and 5, I will use variables. I will use this one. I will say a comma b. So I will say instead of using 12 and 5, use variable a and b. So we expected to see also answer to be 10. Escape like that. Then what we run GCC. We run GCC for max. Yes. Okay, let's wait. Yes, it has come. So list file, we have a.out file. So what is the content of a.out? A.out file. It says 10. I have replaced, instead of giving a number, I give variable to that parameters. I believe at this point you're able to understand now how functions works. So let me now explain the last thing on variables. The last thing in this case will be header files. The last thing will be header files, which allow me to cover up on this. We'll be talking, I know you have been hearing about include stdio.h file. But in this case, we want to learn another new type of header file. So header file in this case will always say include stdio.h. But now you can create your own header file. Somehow surprising, but you can create your own header file. How do you create your own header file? So you can create your own header file which will serve a certain purpose, which in this case is like having your own function in another new file we will just include in your code. I believe it's making sense. So instead, because stdio, it is somewhere, it's a library stored somewhere, which will be called every time when you click include, it will be called into your code. It will be called into your code. So now we can come up to a point of creating our own files. What does it mean to create our own files? When we create our own files, we create our own a file that almost look like stdio, but it's us who created. But in this case, in most of now, from today onward, we'll be talking about your own header file. That is, in this case, we'll talk about main.h. So we'll be getting another file called main.h, and then now main.c. That's what we'll be doing in this particular from here onwards. So now, so there's a difference between now your file, how you will include your file, and how you will include the stdio file. So if you are to include your file, it will be like this: include, for example, you use this one, main.h. So that will be your head. So this one is not the inbuilt. This is what you as a user, you create your own header file. When it says main.h bracket, what it does is that file should have to be in the same directory with your code. So that header file, if I am at let me clear this one, then I explain to you outside. Explain to you when I'm outside this code. So if I am at this point, which directory are we in? pwd. We are in directory called root directory, in this case, home directory. Home directory, not the root directory, it's home directory. So in this home directory, we shall have, now that we have, what do we have? We have max.c file, right? But we can create another file called create touch main.h, like that. I'm sorry, main.h like that. So if we list file now, we shall have now a file called main.h. Where is it? Yes, we have here main.h and we have max.c. So we will be inside this particular max.c, and then we call, the way we are done it, that is include : main.c, main.h, is we are calling, when we are calling them, where they are in the right or the same directory. So if I create main.c like this and then I create max.c like this one, I can be able to call main.c inside max.c. Don't worry about this much. We'll be doing that when we'll be covering about our task. So thank you very much, guys, for all this. I believe I'll be able to try all my best to cover everything that you need to learn about functions and the nested loops. Before you exit this one, don't forget to give us a subscription. Subscribe to our channel and see you next time. Bye-bye.